and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the poet Izzy Human with the philosopher Dunamis on this week's episode number 8, Fight for the Mind. Please be sure to hit that like button on your way in, and if you like us, consider subscribing to keep up with our episodes on YouTube and give us a follow on X.
Fightcast is here to empower individuals to live healthier, master finances, pursue their dreams, and inspire others through self-awareness and global impact. As always, this is for entertainment and educational purposes only and not financial advice.
Dunamis, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing better this week. It's
Good.
it's good to talk about some of the things I think we're going to talk about, with mind and in particular mental health when we're in a good headspace. So I'm in a
Yeah,
good headspace right now. I think that's good.
good. What were some of the solutions that you came up with during those periods?
I think a lot of it just had to do with my focus and in
Okay.
terms of getting stuff done. I had
Yeah.
a lot that's piled up,
Mm-hmm.
and when a lot piles up, that can make it easier to get afraid and to let
Mm.
some of these things create anxiety and that's not what we want, right? We want to cleanse that stuff out. And
Right.
so what's great is when you check things off the list, and I checked a couple of big things off the list this week, it feels really good to get things done, you know.
Good. Good. That's what I like to hear, brother. That's what
Yeah,
I
how
like to
about
hear.
you? How about you?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. Feel rested. I feel fulfilled. I feel much different than I did last week as well. And a lot of it had to do with shifting my focus on the same in that same realm of just what what are these material boulders that are on my shoulders versus what I should actually be doing. And that was definitely one that I needed to take a step back and really explore that. So I feel better. I do feel better. I feel in a more peaceful state. Not that I was ready to like rage, but like I was like ready to, I guess, rage against the machine, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like, but with this month of January though, like we've hit it hard. We really hit it hard 2025, and I feel like going in from 2024, where we really laid a lot of these things down with the team and what we were wanting to accomplish in our missions, and we went through a lot of those kinks and started to iron these things out going into January. I really feel like we've hit the ground running and we're coming in with a full head of steam, but very strategically.
Oh yeah. Last year we had to set a foundation, right? For and timing is a lot, you know. We've been we've been talking about timing and our plans and a lot of the stuff since 2021. So
Hmm.
what we're doing right now going into 2025 is not new. You know,
Right.
we've been working on this for a while. But the yeah, last year was absolutely critical. Last year put us into a really good position now to get a lot done, I think, in 2025.
Hmm.
And but I do think it's been taxing. It's been sort of 2024 was a difficult year. I don't think it was anywhere near as difficult as 2022 was in terms of, losing most of my net worth in the bear market. Um, but just in terms of, everybody's really been waiting for this bull run to take off and waiting and waiting and it seems like it's here, and then we haven't hit it yet. And when it really hits, you're gonna know, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that Ben Cowan is a guy that I listen to a lot. Shout out if there's any chance he ever listens to us. Um, but
At some point he will. At some point he will.
it'd be great. It'd be great,
Yeah.
man. I have loads of respect for that guy. He's a nuclear engineer, right?
Nice.
Really understands his data. And so when you talk about whether we're in a left translated cycle or a right translated cycle, these are the kinds of things that he's sort of looking into. And I do think we have to have the right mentality going into this bull run, regardless of whether Bitcoin were to from here peter out and head down to 78,000, or whether Bitcoin were to shoot up to 150K and then start to peter out from there, right?
Mhm.
Like there's several different things that can happen and we don't know. But I guess to start off the night and as we're getting underway, there's a lot that we really need to uncover, unpack, and talk about. But fighting for the mind, it probably helps that this is a bit of a rambling conversation tonight, because it
It goes with the
reflects,
aesthetics.
it goes with the aesthetics of the conversation. We're all we're all a little insane here, bars in the
Just
window. But I do think that, and insanity might even give us a little bit of an advantage in the crypto world and the meme space in this day and age. So there we are for insanity as an advantage.
that part.
But fighting for the mind, I think, is both two parts. We
Mhm,
have to have the right attitude and mindset that's positive, right?
mhm.
The way to be successful in life is not to be a Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
To just, it's people that are negative all the time, have
Mhm.
negative things happen to them all the time,
Yes.
because that's the frequency that attracts, right?
Right.
You can put off a an amount of positivity and love and high frequency, and it can attract even more of that into your life, and it's like a positive feedback loop, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you a question. Is there a balance of having too many good things happen to you?
I don't think so. I mean, goodness, that's sort of what we're working on. That's what we're striving for. None of us have achieved that yet, I don't think, that are in
Sure.
this two-person conversation, at least.
Yeah, you're
I mean,
right.
hit us in the comments if you've had too many good things happen in your life, please.
Well, and the reason why I ask is because I feel like if you have too much of anything, you can become jaded, right?
Yeah.
So, what if, and out of this, just this thought of being so far this way, where it's just like maybe life becomes like too perfect and then nothing bad could happen. So, maybe you could become jaded in the sense of like nothing bad could happen.
Well, absolutely. The thing is that we need to remember, and we were talking about this offline a little before we started, but
Yes.
you talk about things like the rhythm of life. You talk
Ah,
about how
yes. The pendulum.
the
Yes.
pendulum and how things swing around. And so that is what really would keep things from just going good too much. There's always a reversion to the mean, no matter
Yeah.
no matter what. There's always,
Same energy. It just
yeah.
yeah, same rhythm.
So you and one of the expressions that kind of feeds into this in the negative sense is, when it rains it pours.
Yes.
When you think about that phrase and what it means, there's a truth to it, there's a truth behind it.
Mhm.
The interesting reflection and the polarity of it, if you look at it from the opposite point of view, is that when good things happen, they can also happen. You can be a streaky hitter too. You can be a streaky shooter in basketball and
Mhm.
and and hit 20 threes in a row.
Go
You know what I'm
crazy.
saying? And go
Yeah.
crazy and go off. And that is what we want to try and cultivate in our lives. Is I want to be that streaky shooter, but I want to be the streaky shooter who doesn't miss all the time, who who gets on that run and hits, just like gets in that flow state. And
That's
when you're in that
interesting.
flow
Yeah.
state, you're sitting somewhere in your mind that's not really even like time disappears.
Yeah.
There's
I know
space and
exactly what you
time
mean.
melts away, yeah, and you're just there creating. This is this is something that we're gonna talk about in this space, and I know a lot of the stuff that we talk about on this podcast sounds very generic. It sounds like we're just talking about very vague concepts and ideas, but what we're doing is we're putting together Lego pieces, right? We're building blocks and bricks that are going to build a building.
Yeah, and we're also not trying to confuse you guys either.
Yeah.
um, you know, and I think
Here I am getting all crazy in this episode.
no, we're
We're
gonna get there.
yeah, yeah,
I think you and I both have shown that we can be very esoteric in the things that what we talk about. We want to also be able to, like, when you look at a funnel and you look at how big the top is versus how much narrow it goes, the further down you go to the destination, or, where you're going to your destination, it starts to narrow a little bit, you get closer. So it's like that, with this thought process, because at first you're taking everything in, right? You're
yeah,
seeing everything, you're witnessing everything, you're hearing a lot of these things, and as these things start to go in, now there's that metacognition, right? Of like, now I'm thinking about these thoughts, and I'm sorting these things out, and I'm filtering all of this stuff as the passage starts to narrow a little bit more. So want to be able to, like, yes, this is general stuff, but at the same time, what you take with the generality of these words, and then you really define what these words mean, that's when you really start to dig into it. So that's definitely a big portion of, at least how, I guess, from my opinion, how I'd like to look at it. Dunamis, I know you and I are pretty similar in how we go with the flow of these things. I think we are the pendulum.
oh yeah,
I don't say that in a pretentious way, but just the course of works here. I think it's just the natural way of being at this moment.
yeah. And we're gonna swing and bring it back around to the different aspects that make up the mind that worked for us in 2024 and are going to work for us in 2025 are kind of offset, I think, sometimes by the strife and the negative aspects that we experienced in 2024, and hopefully don't have to experience too much again in 2025. But um, we were also talking about this a little bit offline, in that not just the United States, this nation, and the world really at large has been very divided. And recently, there's been a lot of strife and back and forth, and we break that down into the Cardano community and look at how that's been represented as well. And even in my own personal life, I've had personal struggles and strife to have to deal with. But I think one of the things that we want to kind of open up and talk about, whether I think both of us should sort of feel free to be vulnerable in this sense. But it's all right to talk about mental health and struggles that we all deal with, especially as project leaders and those that are involved in crypto and in the crypto community, because it's prevalent. because it's not something that just one of us deals with. There are many projects that and many project leaders that I've seen have to at least take a step back and take a time out. In that sense, I think it's important to have the conversation, and bring up mental health, how things like anxiety and depression and any other number of concerns affect us in general in today's day and age, but also more specifically those of us who spend a lot of time online, a lot of time in this digital realm. There's an even bigger occurrence of this sort of mental health crisis, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel that, and this might be, maybe this is a little bit much, but I feel like a lot of the fear and the insecurities that we have within us don't come from us. I feel like they come from other people. I feel like it comes from projections of others, from social media, from just anything and everything, because we're surrounded by distractions all the time. We're constantly being put into a glass of comparison. And I see that often. I often hear from other people what I'm not hearing from them specifically, what they've heard from someone else, or what they've seen, or what they looked up, this and that and the third, and may not be giving a full objective perspective. And that's where we have the deferring of opinions, we have division, we have this rabbit hole of just thoughts, right? And disagreements, arguments, blowups, rage outs, wars, battles. The it can escalate. It can escalate. So at least that's how I look at it in some aspects.
It's it's a little crazy. I've actually spent a lot of thought on thought, if that um,
Yeah.
if that makes any sense. It's
Yeah.
kind of a strange thing, but
Metacognition, thinking about thinking.
thinking about thinking, yeah,
Yeah.
and really the narration, the inner monologue, that voice that many of us have that's talking throughout our day.
Mhm.
And how many times is that little voice not helping the situation? How many times do we talk ourselves around in circles, or go back over an old conversation, or an old thought or process that we went down that wasn't successful, and we're trying to find a resolution in it? And that's really our brain is really trying to find solutions to problems. That's what I think our brain at a chemical level is probably trying to do. But it because at a metaphysical, maybe even a more spiritual level, we talk about the I am, and who we are in our mind. And this may be a deep conversation for some people here in the audience, but what we're talking about here is your soul, who you are, right? And that part of you in your mind stands apart from anything else, right, in the world that you're aware of. You think, therefore you are, right? And the voice that speaks is oftentimes reflecting our own fears, our insecurities, our mental illnesses. And this is something that I don't know exactly the reason why it's more prevalent now than it was in the past, but I think it's clear to a lot of people that there are probably environmental factors involved, because there are so many people now that are struggling with these inner thoughts.
We're fighting for the mind. Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of times where we're out of balance, and we find ourselves going into these these thoughts, these depressive thoughts where we can think about something that may not have gone right in this moment in time, which takes us back to last week, which then takes us back to last month, which takes us back to last year. And that takes us back 5 years ago. And the rabbit hole continues. And then you start to build this perpetrator victim stance of I am the problem and like I've done nothing but mess up my whole life, but you're only just taking like little instances of your life where you messed up in those moments, but you've built a pattern around that to now create a narrative where you just mess up all the time. So there is that thought where we associate all of these things, and it's and I think that we talk about the things that make us depressed and the things that give us anxiety a lot. I feel like that. But what are the things that help us? And one of the things that I can personally say that helped me is looking at who I'm surrounded by. And when I realized that's a big realization for me. I knew where I was in certain parts of my life by the people that I was surrounded by, because everybody is a reflection of me in some way or form. So when I was around people that were very much, they had carefree mentality, but there was also a bit of a disconnect as far as the priorities of like where the mind is all the way with certain things, like what was their reality wasn't my reality, and there really wasn't an in between. That's when I started to feel the shift of that, but and just by how we responded to each other and how we acted around each other. And I was like, all right, I'm starting to grow out of these pants. I need to go ahead and looking around and looking where I was at, and even just in the isolation space of just I was all the way over here and I needed to get all the way over there. So that was me going against the grain at that point. Looking at that now, like I was going out of my way and not on the way.
Mhm.
So that was one end. Now I look around and everybody's in front of me. Everybody's in front of me, or we're side by side, and everybody's going off of one another. It's a bing, 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 and then it just powers up this nucleus and it goes woof. Is how I look at it now. So whenever I get in these little funks, I know that I can call such and such, or I can call this person, I can call that person, or I can just this and that. But what about the people that can't?
That's where I think building some of these spaces is important. I want us to have a space like this in the Fight Discord where it's a safe place where you can go and spend time with your friends. You know what I mean? And reach out and connect with people. I think there's a real lack of connection digitally online that we need to figure out how to overcome, because there are so many people in our community that end up being siloed, on their own. I say that as somebody who's lived more or less inside the house and not having gone out to do much of anything for the past 4 years. it's it's sad. But I can tell you that as it's very isolating. It's not a healthy way to live, and that's
Mhm.
something that I'm working on this year fixing. But I'm not saying that for sympathy or anything like that. I'm saying that just to say that, like, I think that there's a lot that we need to be aware about our connection with other people, our relationships with other people, and I have family members I know that struggle, and I try to reach out and say hi to them on a fairly regular basis. I'm reminded now as we're talking about it that I need to reach out and say hi to my cousin. It's
Make that call.
it's important.
Make that call, shoot that text, make that drive. Whatever you feel like you unconsciously need to do, you should probably think about it at least put the rationale behind it and put some action in it. If that, if there's something weighing, something heavy like that, then yeah, take the action for sure.
Always. And if there's a family member that you think needs that extra hug today, it's not a bad idea to give them that extra hug, you know?
Right.
That's
And sometimes it's the really happy people that need the biggest hugs.
it is. It
Remember that.
is.
Yeah.
You know, the might be somebody at your church who is always there, always helping out, always working, underappreciated.
Hmm.
You know, give that person an extra pat on the back. Give that person an extra hug this week. Go and go out of your way to do something a little extra for the people in your life that you love and that love you. And I think that if we all just focus on higher things and higher vibrations, that we can get through 2025. And I think there's a lot, there's great things ahead. The question is, with volatility, we're in cryptocurrency. We're in a market where we love volatility. We love it when the token prices are ripping upwards. We hate it when the token prices are ripping downwards. And in that type of a situation and going into a bull run, there's a lot of emotions.
Hmm.
A lot of emotions. And it's important to prepare yourself mentally for the good and the bad, right? You have to be prepared whether the price goes up or whether the price goes down. And it's important actually to set yourself up in the long term. One of the things we'll talk about in this series is how to set yourself up in the long term to benefit both ways. You really ultimately want to be set up in your portfolio so that if the price goes down, you can buy the dip. And if the
Hmm.
price goes up, you can sell the rip, you know? You set yourself up to be strategically positioned so that you're not concerned mentally, you're not destroyed mentally when the unexpected happens, because nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. There's
Buy
nobody
the
that can tell
dip.
you.
Buy
Yeah.
the dip. Sell the rip. Buy the
Yeah.
dip. Sell the rip. Hey.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I had to throw him in there for a second. Because I want to be the polarity, right? So on the other side of that too, guys, when you think about all these things, eh, this it's not really a joke. This is what I think about. I picture myself in a gnarly place with Chris Farley riding around in Harleys, bumping the Offspring, on my way to meet up with Robin Williams to go have a beer at some hole in the wall bar. And like that to me, dog, is like, and like all three Mick Foley's, Cactus Jack, Dude Love, Mankind.
Oh yeah.
Like that's just, I don't know why. That's my little happy place. And Al Snow somewhere around, like, Mister, yeah, like, somebody. He's just running around. He's just running around. He's in the back. He's actually our server. Yeah. Just to get the mind of Mencia, y'all. Y'all, I'm sorry, Dunamis. Your happy places, like your happy mindsets, like what is something that you feel like in your life where, like, if you went back to that thought, or you went back to that place, or you made that phone call, which the reset button? That's and that's where I feel a lot of the things, and a lot of things that we work through on the daily are mental exercises for one, and repetition is, I mean, it's always been the father of learning when it comes to anything, and building habits and breaking habits too. um and I feel like with anxiety and depression, it's tough because you have spent a period of time building that habit. So to break that habit, you have to put in that work, if not two times, if not twofold, to really start to see the results of breaking a cycle, which is really
Yeah.
tough. And in life, man, you have to think from the beginning of time, and this goes back into, fighting for our community and why community is very, very important in the beginning, because a community plays a large part into your core fundamental values. So if you're off rip, coming into this with just one perspective, with no objection, then there's a handicap right there. Now, some people don't recognize those as handicaps during that period of time, because in that moment of time, that was means of survival. But you're also now looking into this, how many people in this world just live to survive versus actually just living life, and where's our fight or flight type, what's the ratio with that? I know it's all scenario based, but what if we could start to even control the scenario just based off of the narratives that we speak into existence? I know we're getting a little deep, but this is fighting for the mind. It
You're
just
you're saying it exactly the way that it needs to be said, because your imagination is that entry point.
mm, absolutely is. It is. And even as kids, they always say when you're a kid, you have the biggest imagination. And as you get older, you'll start to hear some of I feel, the more enlightened ones say to always feed your inner child. As
Yeah.
soon as you start to starve that inner child, you lose your imagination, you lose the motivation, which you then lose momentum. Our childhood and just our childish mindset, and I say that in a way where it's not always the ding dong ditch. I'm not saying it like that, but just being able to think outside of the box, think outside of the realm. And a kid thinking like, "Hey, mom, if I put wings on the Lego, do you think it'll fly if I snap my fingers?" And mom's like, "I don't know, honey." Well, mom could say, "Absolutely not, Johnny. That's a really dumb idea. Don't ever think about that ever again." Or she could say, "I don't know, Johnny. You're just going to have to put it together and find out."
Yeah.
Just
Exactly.
stuff like that. Stuff like that, y'all. And
Well, what you're
that's
talking
why,
about too is also sort of an unlocking with the depression. We talk about the depression, and you're talking about like the flip opposite of that, right?
yeah,
Is
100%.
is
Yeah.
like when you're locked into a position of being anxious and depressed and fear, the opposite of that is finding purpose. So when you find purpose and you have your imagination unlock the potential of what you can achieve and do, that becomes the first stepping stone in my mind to being able to eradicate and walk out of potentially ingrained depression, right?
Yeah.
And medication is potentially sometimes needed to start, right? But
Yeah.
definitely consult a professional if you're dealing with depression or anything like that. But I just want to say that as a human, it helps to have a purpose in life, to put your mind on those higher things, to not dwell on your circumstances that might have caused the depression, but instead to elevate towards higher principles. And if nothing else, I can say with absolute certainty that it unlocks a level of creativity and drive that helps to push out depression and the because there's slothfulness that comes with the depression, right?
Hmm.
And so it sort of takes that action, the getting up, the drive, the fight, the will, you
Hmm.
know, and that's what we're talking about, is that initiative. You have to get that initiative, drive, put one foot in front of the other. It might hurt at first, it might not be pleasant at first, but that's what it takes. And that really doesn't happen unless you have a clear understanding in your mind of why, your
Hmm.
community. You
Yes,
have
sir.
to you have to understand that, like, because without the why, if it's just you on an island by yourself, then so many people can feel like it's all right to give up, not understanding how interconnected we all are, how there's so many people that are around us. No matter no matter if you feel like you don't have family or friends, we're all interconnected. We all need each other. And every single one of you is important. Every single one of you is a part of what we're building and is important for us to be able to achieve what we want to achieve. We need every single one of you. We need your skills, we need your talents, we need your encouragement, we need your intellect, your ideas, all of these things we need as a part of the community because that's what makes us strong.
Yeah, we need all of you. We need every aspect and every element and all of those things that create sync points to build sequences and build the pyramid, right? Or not one person built the pyramid, just like not one person built Rome. We have come together as a collective over these centuries, decades, et cetera, to build phenomenal things. So it's us. It's us. So that's why it's so important to really channel in where you're at, where you're going, and where you've been, and how to compartmentalize those things and put these things into categories and really take a hold of that. And there are times, periods, as Dunamis mentioned, where might need a little bit of a kickstart. Might not. There might be certain severities where it require different types of attention, and that's understood. That's understood. We've delved into a lot in these few episodes of how all of these things play a role in one another, and I also want to incorporate how food. We've talked about health food, a few different farming. I feel that food is always such an important part into this as well, because what you're putting into your mind or what you're putting into your body is, what is ultimately what you're giving back out too. So that's why all of these things that we're putting into our body, these things are either closing us off or these things are opening us and putting the right type of nutrients in our body to be able to get the right kind of flow and vibration and frequencies that we need for our body to really not only function, just from the physiological standpoint of it, but also the psychological standpoint of it as well. And a lot of these foods, these fruits, and all of these things that come from the ground, and that's why it's like we need to preserve what's in the ground. That's why we need to feed the ground the right things in order to give us the right nutrients to be able to replenish our body, to be able to keep that pineal gland at its highest of heights. It's so important and it's so imperative for all of that. And it's arm, leg, head, body. It's all these things. Like, guys, all of this stuff ties into it. Your superfoods, your mangoes, your being able to step outside and take in some of the natural sunlight and waters and sounds and blocking out the nuance of the industrial material world. You start to block those things out. Understand its importance in some ways for advancements and progressions and whatnot. Technology, it just we've advanced so much as a human as humankind goes. But going back to what we talked about earlier, you swing too far one way, man, you're just gonna keep going that way.
Yeah.
No different the other way, man.
Well, on that note of the mental health and the tie in with the diet, I really do think that there's definitely got to be connections there. I don't know personally what a lot of them are, but I can tell you that your diet, I would imagine, has to be one of the biggest biggest environmental factors. One of the things that I can also tell you that I've personally experienced in terms of being a help in the fight for good mental health, the fight for the mind, has been taking a walk
Mm.
every day, is
Yes,
getting
sir.
out, like you mentioned, getting outside and getting the sunlight, the natural vitamin D from the sun. That actually creates a chemical reaction in our system
Hmm.
that is tied very much to our happiness and our mental health, those serotonins and dopamines and all the those chemicals. Again, I'm not a doctor, not a scientist. Just watch YouTube.
Yeah,
But
watch YouTube, Google.
there you go. But and Andrew Huberman, I think his name, speaks along those lines directly, that taking a walk in the morning, having your eyes lifted up, rather than down, is also important in terms of waking up. But there's a lot that, as you take a walk, and spatially, he talks about, as you walk past trees, and things are moving past your field of vision, in your peripheral vision, it actually sends signals to your brain that help you to wake up and activate cognitive function, and activate more intelligently throughout the day, if you take up and wake up, take a walk outside in the morning first thing. It's probably one of
Hmm.
the best things you can do for your mental health. And I would just say that that's probably been the most beneficial advice that I've taken. Is I try and take about a 45-minute walk every day, and try to eat fruit in the morning. That's always very good. I do try to eat less processed foods. Don't want to get too much into the nitty gritty of what is good and bad to eat in this day and age, because a million people could argue for diet X or diet Y, or I just go and, you know, eat plants, or I go and actually just eat animals that I kill with my bare hands, and, you know, all
Right.
of this and that. But it really is, stripping away the processed foods and chemicals that I think are hurting us neurologically, if I said that correct, neurologically.
Yeah, yeah, neurologically, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm gonna say this. I want to say this because, and I know for there's a lot of people out there that may disagree with me on this. I honestly don't care at all. I really don't. Kanye West has been a very big figure, and I don't idolize people. I don't idolize another person. The only entity that I worship is God when it comes to that. Um, but Kanye West has been a very prominent figure in in my life in certain aspects, and a lot of people will be like, "Well, he's crazy," and this and that and the third. But you know what Kanye would have said? You don't have a mental illness; it's your superpower. It is your superpower, and only you know how to feed your superpower, and whatever that means. And they say, only you know how to diagnose your superpower. I got to take medication for that. If you look at it like that, if you
mhm.
look at it like that, I got to take my medication for my mental disorder. You know, okay, like call it what it is. You know what I mean? Call it what it is. And somebody would literally tell you, well, it is a mental disorder because of this and that and the third and blah blah blah. Listen, again, I'm not a doctor, and if you are a scientist and you're listening to this right now, number one, I'm really happy you're here. Um,
By fight.
really, yeah, just buy some fight. But on the other end of it too, I also just don't care because again, it goes back into that mindset of I'm not thinking of these handicaps. Like I'm not thinking of why because I have this going on and that going on, why such and such is just going to go further in life than me if I didn't have, like I'm not thinking like that. And that's the same thing I think about uh racism, and I think about all of those things, man. I think about all of that. Like I just don't let or at least I try not to because I'm human. I try not to let the projections of others and things that have been put out there in frequencies for years and for centuries and decades to like control us. I'm not gonna, they, man, I don't want to have to, we can go into another episode about that one, but just all in all, they used to say that certain people couldn't be CEOs because of X, Y, and Z. I don't want to hear that. And guess what? I'm choosing not to hear that.
That's
So,
good.
so I'm not hearing it. Like, I don't hear that at all. What you actually just told me was you're scared of me being there anyway, is what I heard.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, well, perfect. I'm so glad I'm here then. I'm glad I'm here to, and I'm not here, nobody's here to scare anybody. But again, these fears.
If you have a level of detachment from the situation, then those things can't hurt you, right?
Right.
And how much of our mental illness comes from being afraid of things that could happen because we're hanging on to things that really we shouldn't be hanging on to because they're out of our control anyways. They're
Right.
things that potentially they affect us, but if it's not within our immediate control, we probably could move our focus in a different direction and have a much better outcome, right? And
Agreed.
these are things that I say them because I've started to realize them, but I haven't necessarily lived them historically.
Sure.
So these are things that yeah, I mean it's life is a progression, right? We're all learning, we're all growing, and I can tell you personally that I think we all grow and learn over time as long as we're aware and remain teachable. There's the opposite where we think that we know everything. We think that we've learned. That pride comes in and says that we have achieved, that we have arrived. And so the moment that that happens, we start to close down our hearts and our minds, and people that do that, they diminish the ability for new ideas and new thoughts and regenerative renewal within somebody's life and soul. And so I think as long as we keep our hearts and minds open to
I'm getting,
learning and changing.
yeah, just
Yeah.
learning and changing and adapting because you don't. There's a wise adage from somebody that I know in my family, and humbles you a little bit. And pardon me for cursing, but they said you don't know shit about shit. And I take that with a grain of salt, but I also laugh at it a little bit too
Mhm.
because you're always going to be a student to the game. Like you don't know nothing about nothing, youngin. When it comes to that, because a lot of people think they know things, but out of those things that how many of those things have you acted on?
That's true.
And I think about it like that. Like, yeah, I've got a million thoughts in my head. I've got a million ways to make money in my head, but have I put those million thoughts into action? No. Oh, why? I just don't have the time.
Mhm.
So I don't have time to act on the million thoughts that I have, but I have time to think a million thoughts.
We get in our way. We get
Yeah.
we get in our own head too much, you know?
When time's not already not supposed to be relevant, that's a whole nother segment. Toodaloo, in the words of the late great Miss Doubtfire.
Mrs. Doubtfire. That's great.
Toodaloo. I'm here
Oh,
for it, man. I'm here for it.
that's awesome.
Oh man, the mind is such a beautiful thing, and it's always going to be a beautiful thing. And what you put into your mind feeding your mind is it's the most important thing with information, with food, with all of it, with the people that you're surrounded by. I mean, all of these things are very, very important. And I feel like without these things, then we just have this untapped potential that we really could be generating some huge impact with just being able to solidify things in our mind to ultimately put out into the universe to to like execute and manifest. And I had a really had an interesting conversation with our engineer and our publisher about manifestations and just understanding the true mechanicals of how manifestation works. And it's always intriguing to listen to him speak because he's very inquisitive, so he definitely challenges your thoughts to like strengthen your own to strengthen your concepts and to further put out a stronger proof of concept. So because I was talking about impact, and I was talking about the impact itself isn't necessarily how the people respond. The impact is me formulating thought and manifestation, which is like pressure, right? Like you have like or the thought, and then it's pressure, and then it turns into diamonds, and like that's the impact of it is like now I've turned this thought into an actual action, and that is the there's impact. Like it was a bit broad. It was a bit broad. And I think I had to reel myself back into the mechanical aspect of manifestation. Um, but I think all in all, just words themselves are just being able to formulate the words to be able to give you the right equation for things to really go into place to create the element that you genuinely wanted to further align yourself to get to that nucleus. But I digress.
Well, that's why it's so powerful, the human imagination. The human imagination is probably the most powerful thing in this universe because out of that initial spark or idea, you can manifest anything. And we will have times to go deeper into those kinds of things, but clearly, manifestation and achieving your life's dreams, where we talk about that in particular, starts with an idea, starts in the mind. And so, this entire fight right here is for us to have the right attitude, a positive, positive mindset, beliefs that aren't limiting, that believe that we can achieve what it is we set out to achieve, to have the discipline and the mindset to work through and take the actions that we need to take, and to not allow the negativity hold us back to cause inaction or any other harmful things in our life. The way to overcome those negative things, those negative thoughts, is to put your mind on the positive things, is to not dwell on those negative things,
Hmm.
right? You have to set your mind on the things above. And when you focus on your highest purpose, on your goals, on your dreams, on the things that really make you happy, and ways that you can help achieve not only happiness for yourself, but that same dream and vision for other people. If you can help other people achieve their dreams and happiness, it's only going to help you achieve your dreams and happiness with haste. Blessings will come into your life with speed, with ferocity. I believe that. I believe that we're on the cusp of great things. And the reason is not because of what came before and what we've been through. That's just history. Those are just circumstances. It's because I feel like sometimes talking about mental health can help us to destigmatize it. On that note, it's been such a great conversation, Izzy, and we're gonna bring it back around next week. And if you've made it this far, be sure to like, subscribe on YouTube, and let's leave a brain emoji in the comments if you've made it to the end. How about that? Right?
I like it. I like the brain emoji.
Okay,
it
cool.
makes sense.
It makes sense for this episode. So
yeah.
All right. Stay positive. Be blessed. Until next time, Izzy.
333.
333. Never give up the fight.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less, you check as I'm chess, what's happening next, yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson, he got a new engine from pain, that's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession, all in his possession. You got their attention, I'll leave an impression and take your redemption. Just kill, no discretion, your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression, You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they're scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try to change, you can say no, free me. So he's been looking for somebody who could save him, instead of searching inside for what they gave him. A strong will, strong mind causes mayhem. We could change the world, change times, rearrange them. Staying on pace, running the race. Life is a chase, I don't want a place, I wanna be first. Work till it hurts, dehydrated thirst till I'm in a hearse. High ambitions and the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off from a break off from the weak minds, they can stay soft. You can change lives, you create thoughts, never waste time. You got one shot, you got one life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss, just my life and free thoughts. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they're scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try to change, you can say no, free me.